today was a wild day when we look at the S&P, we look at the NASDAQ, and tariffs again. I mean, like you would think I'm kidding with what I'm about to tell you. But again, this highlights why right now you are bearish overall in the market. I don't care what anyone says. This solely states why you are bearish. Okay. S&P, still another red day here. Again, you had a little bit of bounce, but ultimately coming back down. And this was the highlight of the day. Trump comes out bright and early. He's like, guys, good morning, good morning, good morning. Heads up. Those tariffs you have on Canada? Double them. We're going to double those bad boys. This comes a day after the Prime Minister of Canada announces they're going to be tariffing America and raising the prices basically on all electricity coming into America. Well, then Canada's like, guys, whoa, they called our bluff. They called our bluff. You flip over to the news there, and apparently Ontario backs off the price hikes that they're going to be doing towards America. They also did threaten that they would turn off electricity, like just shut it off, whatever that means, right, towards America. This was wild. This was wild. And Trump did declare national emergency regarding the electricity and what was happening here. But again, it seems like things are kind of back to normal. We're going back to 25% tariffs because, again, at the end of this is literally crazy. Like, this isn't a matter of like a 6-7 hour day, right? I mean, they were going wild. Then you have Navarro come out, says 50% steel aluminum tariffs on Canada are canceled. I mean, this is this all day back and forth. And why is this so bad for the market? What is the worst thing for the market we always talk about? The worst thing for the market is uncertainty. And that is all we are getting. I mean, you wake up and you do not know what's going to be said. You don't know what's going to come out of Trump's mouth. You don't know what policy changes are going to happen. I mean, it's like every day it's just a game of Russian roulette. You do not know what you're going to get. And, when you dive deeper into like the NASDAQ specifically, and I've said this, like when I say that you are getting good action for like scalping, it's in the sense of like you're actually moving in good ranges, right? So like NASDAQ today, it's a 5-minute chart. We go to the 15-minute. You really didn't move on the day on the NASDAQ, right? This was basically like pre-market highs right here. And then your low of day, which you made multiple lows of the day, but you didn't break pre-market lows. So you sat in between all day, pre-market lows and pre-market highs. That's what happened here on the day, okay? Very important to understand that. You have a little bit of a breakout, but ultimately came back down, right? But this is a very big range. This is like 300, 400 points. So like trading this back and forth as far as like futures, SPY, Qs, you can do it. Like you can make money doing it. But trading equities gets very difficult because you're going down, then going up, and like holding anything for any amount of time is just not really worth the risk, right? So this was like for me, and I'd like to be transparent with you guys, right? This was one of my worst days trading stocks and options, right? Be totally transparent. I went basically 0 for 2 here on the day. Number one, I went short on AVGO. I'm really looking, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to go into AVGO here later on. I still think AVGO is one of the best potential plays out there in the market right now. I'll be totally straight up honest with you guys. But again, I got stopped out of this play. Worth mentioning, okay? And then also going into, I think I had a play here as well on, I was looking for Meta. I didn't even lose any money on Meta, so it is what it is. But Meta I was just chilling on. It is what it is, right? Small position. It broke up, broke back down, stayed flat. So it was like a stop loss, right? But again, that was what I was doing on the day. The other part, though, is what's happening here with futures. And something that I've been trying to highlight is futures are a great way to make money right now. And this is not me, trying to get people to sign up for X, Y, or Z. But I just want to show you guys something that's happened. And I'm going to a statement because this action is really good for a group of people. So this is my futures over the past like 30 days. I don't want to go to my account. I might show my account information. No, it won't. Okay. Past 30 days. So you can see from the 19th to right now, 11th. Today was one of my better days, right? Again, close to 40, probably should hit the $40,000 marker tomorrow, okay? Because this is against 5 accounts. So again, when I'm telling you guys about funded trade and things like that, I'm just trying to put you guys on that this action is best for trading futures, trading funded accounts, way less risk, and you can pick and choose when you want to take options. That's what I'm trying. I'm just, hey, just preaching to the choir, okay? Just preaching to the choir. And if you're interested, the link is down below for the funded trader who I use, things along those lines. So yeah. Now, going back into NASDAQ where you're at and what came out of it today. Like, what came out of it? If you're interested in Discord, the link's down below as well. Okay? What really came out of today? What are we looking for? And did this give us any direction? If I'm looking at the NASDAQ today, and I'm looking at the hourly, that's where I would spend most of my time here. I'm not a fan. I'm really not. Okay, because there's a few things. Number one, and we have to go into a lot of information today, okay? In my opinion, it really looks for me, and again, I have no position overnight, nothing like that, okay? It looks to me like you're flagging. That is what this looks like to me. Just cold hard facts, right? Coors Light, cold hard facts, okay? Now you're below 19.5. If you do not follow on Twitter, I don't know what to tell you, because again, I have paid content, but I try to put out there as much free content as possible. And I told you guys this earlier. I was very, very, very clear, right? I wanted to make sure no one could get mad at me, okay? But this was clear as day. Under 19.5, this you were expecting downside. What happened? From 19.5, you ended up dumping back here. 19.5, you dropped all the way down to 19.2 and then bounced back up. But still, this is a problem now. You're breaking back down very significant levels that you've been holding for so long. And these levels were very hard to get above the first time we got above them, back in August, September, things along those lines. And that's where we're at right now. Now, you did have a day of bouncing on semiconductors and some of these other names, but I don't know if it's enough. Like, you look at NVIDIA here, and I don't love the action. I don't. You're bouncing where we need to on 106.5. End of the day, you push into 112 and reject basically $4 or $5. I mean, gross, terrible action, right? Bad. Apple all day long, weakest name out there. I mean, you just dropped all day long from the 200 SMA. Gross. You lost lows. It was nasty. I mean, it's just a downside. I mean, just brutal day. So again, I don't necessarily think you look that good across the board. Like, you got some bounce on semiconductors, AVGO's bouncing where it needs to, but you don't look awesome. It's very important, okay? Now, going into tomorrow, why is it big? Why is it important? So tomorrow morning, you're going to have CPI, core CPI coming out bright and early. That will be key. That will be important, okay? I'll be live here on the channel like I am every morning at 7:30 a.m. Central. So, again, we'll have that data live when that comes out. Now, in my earlier video, I vaguely talked about this, but I didn't want to go too in detail, so I didn't want to talk too much about it. Okay, CPI, the core effects. The core effects of CPI are what's happening with inflation, but ultimately what's going to come out from the Fed and what's going to come out from Powell. It's important to understand this is kind of a lose-lose scenario in my opinion. Let's say CPI comes out lower than expected, okay? And inflation's on track of what the Fed thinks it's going to do, okay? If inflation continues to drop, I don't know how you're necessarily... If inflation continues to drop, it's unlikely that the Fed wants to cut rates. They want to keep doing what's working, at least if we stay on expectations. Now, if inflation comes out higher, I misspoke earlier, the Fed's going to want to cut. They're not going to cut Fed if the rates come out higher right now. If rates come out higher, then they really don't want to cut. They really don't want to cut because you're in a bad situation. Now, fast forward 2 months, 3 months from now, if we're moving the correct way with inflation and then, you start to see inflation resurge from that, it's most likely due to tariffs. Then you put the Fed in a position where okay, maybe we start cutting because this is affecting this and they don't want, things to become sticky, right? We've talked a lot about that. And Powell's made it very clear that right now you're in an uncertain area. We need to see how the market responds to tariffs. That's why Powell said that. So it's really interesting to see what's happening here. The biggest metric that's going to point towards the Fed having to cut rates, in my opinion, is going to be unemployment numbers. I've said this a lot. I think it's the number one data indicator of what we're looking at. But it's important to realize if we just meet expectations, it's unlike... You have to assume the market takes that as, okay, we might bounce short term, but then just drop right back down because the Fed is so happy with where we're at and how we're moving. And we've seen since Powell talked, guess what happened? The market's just found buyers. So it's important that we're interpreting what's actually being said and what's actually impacting the market out here because yields are kind of flatlining now, which I think yields continue on their way down, but it's important to understand that it's seeming less and less likely that Powell's going to cut rates anytime soon. It was kind of just crazy if you really believe that as a whole, back a few days ago. I don't know why anyone would have believed that, but whatever. I'm not trying to read your mind. So that's really important to understand. Now, again, CPI. Let's say CPI beats, right? Or it comes in way lower than expected or a point, whatever it may be, right? You might get some immediate upside. I would bet, and I would say today, I was looking for upside to start the day. I really was. Where I was wrong was not anticipating Trump to come out and say something fucking crazy. We're going to double up tariffs from 25% to 50% on Canada. I was like, "Oh, are you sure? Did he get that run right, boys?" But he did. And so that hurt the market, and you bounce back up later. So again, it's important to keep your head on a swivel with what you're trading here and understand that trading the upside has risk right now. I think trading the upside has the most risk as right now because you're not getting any continuation. Something that's really interesting here is despite like some of the volatility you had on the day, it's just that like you didn't really hold. Like, I mean, for me, it was just wild. Like this morning, in my opinion, you had every reason to move to the upside. You bounced up, you just dropped, right? And really, like you go to NASDAQ, it was really clear based off that 19.5 level. You're probably going to test it here in the after hours again. But like you just rejected the 19.5 level all morning and then just plopped down to like 11, then pop back up, then pop. Like the end of the day close here too was just nasty. There's just not a lot of confidence out there. And that's why I keep saying, people are like, well, when do you buy? When do you do this? I'm like, if you're buying stock, you just buy. Like you have to, if you're a long-term investor and you're like, when do I buy stock? I'm sorry to tell you, you just close your eyes, you pick which stocks you like, and you just hit the button. You just hit the button. Like you just have to. Like you have to just keep hitting the button every few days to average in lower and lower and lower. I'm sorry, that's just how it works. It's not a fun game sometimes. Sometimes, believe it or not, your portfolio won't go straight up. So it's really important to understand that as well. So when I'm looking at everything, that's the big viewpoint here. And again, where do you start to flip the narrative of like things getting back to maybe bullish or things like that along those lines? And again, like you're getting further and further from those levels. So again, as we just look flat at the chart, I mean, for me to get bullish overall in the market again, you got to get back above the 200 SMA. And you're not getting any real buyers to get you back up there. Worth mentioning, the Dow, dear God. I mean, this thing's getting thrashed. I mean, this thing's just going low. Like, forget the NASDAQ for right now. The Dow is getting decimated. I mean, this thing's going straight down. We made new lows again on the day. I mean, you're literally back, non-adjusted. You're back at highs from last July. Last summer, you're below last summer highs. Like, is that not crazy to think about that you were below last summer highs? Right? Go back. Let's get rid of the drawings again so you can see a little bit more clearly. I mean, your next stop on Dow is 40K. Like, that's your next big level. And I mean, people want to say, oh, this isn't a crash and a pullback. Dow's concerning. I mean, Dow is concerning. Someone in Discord today said, well, this isn't as concerning as, August, the big August pullback we had with the Bank of Japan and the carry trade. I would argue this is more concerning. Just from a fundamental viewpoint, you actually have a case for continued downside. So it's important that we're just at least processing the bad that could potentially continue to happen when we're looking at this, okay? So again, viewpoints, expectations, where we're at. I will say short term, I mean, get back above 19.5, and I'm looking for that push back towards 19.8. I'm going to be dead. That's just my honest opinion. You get back above 19.5 here, I don't have much. I really don't. I mean, you're making levels now. I will say you are making levels like at 19.65, so maybe that becomes a resistance to today's highs. But like, yeah, I mean, above 19.5, I think you could start cruising. And we saw that as well today. Once you started breaking out, you moved up from 19.5 to 19.7 in, what was it, 20 minutes? 20 minutes to get 200 points? What a rally. So again, what you want to see, what you are seeing right now. Now, again, equity stocks that we're looking at, things along those lines. Now, again, the biggest concern for me continues to be semiconductors. I made a video more on semis earlier today, so I'm not going to cover them too much in this video. But again, SMH semiconductors are at support here, 213, 214, and you're just kind of chilling here, okay? This brings me into my favorite play right now, okay? And I don't know if Discord's getting mad that I'm mentioning my favorite plays here. I don't really know, but I've been a fan of them. You guys have been a fan, so I'm going to keep doing it. AVGO. I think AVGO is the big boy here. I mean, it was a top play like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and it's now officially back up there, right? So let's talk about it. AVGO. Broadcom had good earnings, and I think with those earnings, it kind of saved you in the short term. Like things could have got really bad for Broadcom, but the more I look at this chart, the more I get concerned. So a few things, you have a gap down here as well. Let's highlight that level so you can come back to it in a second. So that's your gap down. You have a few gaps, but we'll just talk about that one, okay? That is where you're at. Okay, so AVGO is doing two things right now, two concerning things, okay? On the bright side, you're holding above your 200 SMA, which is more than we can say for most equities and stocks, okay? On the not so bright side, you're rejecting at critical levels. your previous low from January, and then your low here from February, okay? Or February 28th. Yeah, that is your February low right there, right? Before you broke down to your 200 SMA. And then this 185 level is your previous all-time high. That's the most important before you broke out towards $200, right? So that's where you're at right now. This is how you're moving, okay? A little bit sticky to see, but we'll do our best here, right? Okay, let's get rid of that top level just so you can see. You're sitting here. Now, what you really want to see, and you have two ways to trade this. Now, I got aggressive today, and that's why I took an L, because I said, look, I love to play. I want to get in early. I want to make more money. The end. I got a little greedy. I made a lot of money the past few weeks. And I said, you know what, boys? You got to risk it for the biscuit. That's what I did. And I took an L today. So that is what it is. But where you really want to see are two things. You want to see a break below the 185 level. Number one, Discords know we've traded this before from 185 down to your 200 SMA. You want to see a break, a retest, and then a break towards your 200 SMA. Ideally. Okay. Now from here, things get a little bit trickier. Because what you want to see now is a break and hold below your 200 daily moving average. That is going to be the most critical thing that we can do here. Breaking and getting below that level. If we break below the 200 SMA, I think you could push down to 172, 171 in a hurry. And we've seen AVGO move very quick. Now, the other really concerning part here is that you're basing, and this is not good, right? So number one, we're not even testing our 100 moving average, which is really concerning that we haven't really went up and tested that. Okay, you had strengths for the better part of the day. You're rejecting clear as day at this point, which we kind of love to see. But overall, something that we call this is a drop, and then you base at a level, and then typically you look for another drop. It's not a flag, it's a base. Okay. And, sometimes this doesn't happen on higher time frames. It'll happen more on lower time frames, right? We will see this happening again and again and again. And I think an example here would be something along the lines of maybe like Tesla, right? To where you have been dropping, you'll base at a level, you'll drop, you'll base, and then you'll drop, and then it'll just keep continuing and continuing. It's just this standard of how it happens. Just drop, base, drop, again, over and over and over, right? Don't say it too many times too fast. But that's what I'm looking for here on AVGO. Now, a comparable thing that you might find interesting here is something like NVIDIA. NVIDIA has been taking a tumble. NVIDIA, again, when it lost its 200 SMA, I was as bearish as the next guy. But when you lost your 200 SMA, would we have thought that we would have been at 106 within a week, right? That's what happened. And now NVIDIA, again, what's really concerning here on NVIDIA is that you've been breaking below 106. This is a big level. So now you're like getting these false breakdowns as well. So if NASDAQ starts selling and semiconductors can't hold up and AVGO rolls over, I think NVIDIA also tries to come down towards 100 or $97, which would probably really hurt the NASDAQ if I had to assume. Now, the other part of this as well, I mean, again, things just continue to like Tyler, fuck, does it get good, right? Does it ever get good? I don't know. So, yeah, you're getting this pullback, right, on a lot of these names, and you see NASDAQ bouncing, right? NASDAQ's bouncing. And in theory, I'd be like, oh, this is good. But what appears to be happening is that you're getting love on NASDAQ, but every other sector is getting absolutely trashed. Like, again, the fact that Dow isn't able to find a bottom while NASDAQ is trying to find a bottom is concerning, right? So you're not seeing one area of the market like kind of stay steady while the other area gets a bounce back up, which is you might see a sector rotation. It's almost like you're seeing just slow sell-offs across the board. So this is why I've been saying it's just too early to get bullish. And so when I say this, I mean, like, again, I have to keep looking for downside until something changes out there. Like right now, nothing really appears to be changing, right? Everything just appears to be continuing to the downside. And I think today, if you were going to bounce, today was like your day. Like today was your opportunity and you just couldn't really do it, right? And you stalled out way shorter. You should have at least ran towards like 19.7, 19.75, in my opinion, but you didn't. So again, another big sign of weakness. Now, am I saying tomorrow you're going to dump or collapse? That's not what I'm saying. In my opinion, you have to watch your levels. So if we start breaking below 19.15, I'm looking for 18.95 and 18.7, clear as day. And then I'll trade equities according to that as well, right? I'm sticking true to what's happening with NASDAQ and then evaluating my trades based off of the way NASDAQ is moving. So it's important to understand both sides of the trades and both sides of what you're looking for, okay? A few other trades that I'm looking at. I'm not really looking at Apple. I mean, Apple is, don't get me wrong, Apple's This is terrifying. This is a bad looking chart, right? This is not a good looking chart, right? Oh shit, did I just do that? Okay, no, we put it back on. Sorry, I thought I got rid of my indicators for a second. I was like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, this is a bad looking chart, okay? You officially are breaking back below January lows, as you saw here. That is concerning in itself. You can see these lows right here are massive November and January lows. If you flip 219-ish, yeah, 219, 219.5, I mean, dude, this is it's not good, right? 219, 220 is a huge level. Below that, you're looking towards 216, 215, and then below that, you know, I don't want to be the guy, but you're looking towards 200, like, which is crazy, right? But it's also worth mentioning that Apple's playing the catch-up game on the downside, so that is important to keep in the back of your mind and things you're looking at right now. Another big name is Meta. Now, Meta, I was looking for upside here on the day. Again, I think you would have had the upside if Nasdaq would have continued this morning, but it is what it is. So you stalled out and you came back down. Okay, Meta. Yeah, I mean, if this gets back below 600, I mean, easy. You know, it's easy. You're looking for downside towards 570. I'll be totally honest. Now, what I will say is, again, when you look at this, you're holding your previous resistance, and resistance turns support, right? Bounced up, right? So you are trying to hold up. But again, back below 600, 598, I'm looking for downside to the 200. Like, I'll be totally honest. Like, not a good looking name. Big name. Looks weak. Amazon, another big name here. I've traded this a few times. Really, we keep only getting into target 1. We can never get to target 2. But Amazon, again, I mean, this is a nasty looking, one of the worst looking charts out there as well. And it took everything. Only reason why I did not go short on Amazon into tomorrow, or AVGO for that matter, the only reason I didn't buy puts and hold them overnight, and this is for anyone in Discord too. Sorry that I didn't do it, right? Because you guys would have loved for me to do it. But the only reason I didn't is because you have CPI in the morning, and I just don't know the way the market's going to react. I don't want to bet on the way it's going to react, but I really just don't know how we're going to react. So at least in the short term, right? So again, you're just testing your 200 daily moving average and reject. I mean, this is bad. This is a chart and a half. Below 195.4, I'm looking for downside into 192-ish, 192.5, and then down towards 189. You have a gap fill to like 187. So big name I'd be watching there as well still. You got a good bounce rate on Reddit off the 200 SMA. That's why I said if you want to go short on Reddit, what did we say? Break below 104 first and then trade it down towards $80. It didn't break, so you couldn't go short. That's why we have levels. That's why we're watching them. Tesla, big name here. You know, I just mentioned how you're kind of sitting here flagging and you look like trash. Go figure. I mean, you have Donald Trump come out and try to hype up the stock, and literally nothing saved it. Probably should be market manipulation, to be totally honest, but we're not going to talk about that. But yeah, I mean, gross. Is holding below your previous low. Looks weak. Again, I'd be looking for a break of higher lows you're making here right now. Can you break down, start pushing towards 218, pushing towards $200 as well? It's just what I'd be watching. So overall, the name of the game, I still see downside. I don't think anything's really changed. I haven't seen a shift of sentiment in the market. You're still seeing crazy shit from the news. There's no real good viewpoint that I'm having right now. Long term, I think it's great buying opportunities. Buy stock all day long. Buy, hold, forget. Buy, hold, forget. Buy, hold, forget. But in the short term, no. I think the value proposition is still to the downside until something changes. And as of right now, I don't see anything changing, or I haven't seen anything change so far. If you have questions, comment. I'll try to get to those. I prefer you guys to comment on Twitter. It's easier for me to answer stuff, and you might get a picture as a response as well for a chart. So anyways, I appreciate you guys. You guys have been awesome lately. Have a good one. See you guys tomorrow.